You're listening to the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast, the show that proves no one stumbles upon success ever. With your host, Lou Need. Every Mondays and Thursdays, we deliver cold hard evidence behind the power of a robust morning routine. Get ready to be transformed by the renewal of your mind.
Morning enthusiasts, welcome to the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast. I am your host, Lunid Lewis, and today I have the privilege to introduce our next guest, and she is phenomenal. Kathleen Gage is with us today. She is a no-nonsense, common-sense online marketing strategist. She's a speaker, author, a product creation specialist who helps entrepreneurs make money online. Successfully self-employed since 1994, she gives her clients the tools to create businesses that last and make a difference and impact in the world at the same time. Kathleen, welcome to the show.
Lunid, it is great to be here. I'm ready and raring to go.
Awesome. Author, you are the author of Power Up for Profits, a book written exclusively for women who want to leverage the power of the internet to reach a global audience and build successful businesses. Tell us about what inspired you to write Power Up for Profit and for such a specific niche.
Well, I've been online for probably 20 years now, making money online. And I was one of the early adopters. I was one of the first women that really made a presence for myself online. And what I realized is that a lot of people just couldn't figure it out. They just didn't have very specific strategies, and women especially. They would say, well, there's too much competition. I can't compete with the men, and on and on. And truly, my book could apply to just about anybody, but we decided that in all the marketing to really focus on those women who wanted to get a presence. And so that really was the catalyst for writing the book. But I noticed is over the last 20 years, things have dramatically changed, yet there are some things that foundationally will never change. And one being that you have to be willing to take risks in order to be seen by your market.
Big risk taker. What are some of the risks that you've seen?
Well, some of the risks, one is just asking for what you want, reaching out to people, building relationships, putting yourself out there, getting out of your comfort zone, because we tend to, as humans, we tend to get into these comfort zones that are safe. And we might be thinking that we're playing big, but if we really pull back the curtain and look at it, we realize, I'm in my safe space, whatever that may be. And so a lot of times it's just a matter of picking up the phone. That can be a risk to some people. Other times it can be that you have a really important message to share and looking for opportunities to get on the platform to speak. And by platform, it could be the platform of an actual stage, or it could be the platform of doing a webinar. It could be the platform of being part of a summit. It could be the platform of being very strategic in what you're doing with social media. Because when I got started, Lunid, there was no such thing as Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. Those things were non-existent as we know them today. And so back in the day, it was very different than it is today. I think today, although there's more noise out there, I think it's easier today in a lot of ways than it was when I first started.
Yeah, I can imagine back in 94, I came into this country in 95. And of course, there was no cell phone. And a couple of years later, we had pagers where if you needed to contact somebody, you page them and they'll call you later. So.
Right. Hey, in my day, when I was growing up, we had payphones, and I think it cost a nickel back in the day for payphones. And some people have never even seen a payphone. They don't know what that is. But, that's what Superman used to come out of. But,
that's fantastic. I love what you talked about, getting out of your comfort zone. You don't know who you're going to be talking to. That could be your next prospective investor, your next prospective partner.
Absolutely. I actually have a huge success around something I did that I had no intention of it turning into part of my business model, but I do animal rescue. And, every animal that we have in our home is a rescue, dogs, cat, chickens, horses, and I live in Oregon. We've got some acreage, so we're blessed to be able to have some horses here. And one dog a few years ago that we rescued needed some major surgeries, and so I decided to do a GoFundMe just to see if I could get my community involved. And I created an info product, and I said all the money I make from the info product will pay for her surgeries. Well, I more than paid for her surgeries. As a result of that, somebody in the pet industry who did one of the largest conferences, Blog Pause, she reached out to me and she said, hey, we'd love you to come and speak at this conference. It's all animal bloggers. And I said, well, the animal space is not my space. I don't work with people in the animal industry. She said, you know how to make money online, and that's exactly what we want you to teach these people. That one opportunity, which that was probably 6-7 years ago, that one opportunity has opened up hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of business to me. And I honestly did not plan for it to be a business strategy, but it turned out that because I had the knowledge, and when the call came through, I answered the call, and I was willing to stretch myself, because it was like, that's a whole new industry to me. And as a matter of fact, in a few months, I'm going to a huge conference in Palm Springs where I'm going to be consulting with all of the vendors who are there at the trade show. And so it's, really interesting when we just I would say when we let God, source, universe show up in our life and guide us, everything works out great.
Yeah, being obedient to his voice, to the calling, being still and quiet enough so you can hear it, because it's not going to be screaming at you. It is a quiet, still voice.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of times people, they want the rivers to part. They want things to drop from the heavens, when it's those little things that if we pay attention, we see that everything is working in our favor.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And I have an example I shared with you before we started is this is my yoga time. I'm usually in yoga from 6 to 7 on Thursdays. And something says, just don't attend today and continue to edit this one episode that I need to have in by Monday. And you call in because you were scheduled for next Thursday.
I'm so excited about being on your show. I'm a week early. It's like, oh. Well, and it's so funny because I've been looking forward to this, and during my morning process, I was journaling about it and just, about the blessings in my life, really.
And it's a good transition into blessings, because I share that. Absolutely. I have a morning journal that I write 5 things that I'm grateful for. Tell me about your morning gratitude and your morning routine and how it kind of gets you motivated to start your day, to run triathlons, for crying out loud. You are over, 60 years old?
I'm 65. And, and I have to tell you, I was looking at Ellen last night. I was watching her TV show, The Game Show or whatever it is, and she's 61. And I thought, that's what 61 is so representative of. It's so awesome that, she's a woman in her 60s and look what she's doing. And I'm 65. And sometimes I forget that I'm at an age where a lot of people give up. A lot of people are not physical. I did a sprint triathlon for my 64th birthday. I did a half marathon for my 65th birthday. I did my first marathon at the age of 61. So I haven't been a lifelong runner. I picked up the sport at the age of 60. But my morning routine, I actually was taught about morning routines about 35 years ago when I got sober. I'm actually in recovery, and my life is so different from what it was when I was drinking. I was a lost soul when I was out there drinking. And fortunately, I was blessed to connect with a woman who became my sponsor. And one of the things that she tasked me with was to journal every morning. She goes, before you leave the house, I want you to write down things you have to be grateful for. And back then I said, well, I have nothing to be grateful for. And she said, do you have your arms? Do you have your legs? Do you have your eyes? Do you have a roof over your head? Do you have food in the refrigerator? And I always had a yeah, but. And she goes, I'd go, yeah, but it's a small house. Yeah, but it's, not much food. Yeah, but. And she goes, get rid of the buts, because the only butt you should have is the one you sit on. And I'll never forget that, because it was always, we invalidate or devalue what we have in our life by saying, yeah, but. And so she taught me to get into the habit of journaling on a daily basis. And it made a huge difference because I was able to get rid of the chatter in my head. And first, for me, it's about doing a brain dump, just getting rid of all the garbage, because no matter how much we develop ourselves, no matter how spiritual we tend to think ourselves of being, and how much on a path we believe ourselves to be, we still have the human tendencies of having the negative chatter. And I think that the morning journaling helps me with that. So over the years, I've experimented with a lot of different processes. And about a year ago, I was introduced to Hal Elrod's process, the Miracle Morning, and I did that for about a year. And then I recently was introduced to the works of Robin Sharma with the 5 a.m. Club, and he does the 20-20-20 process where you start with 20 minutes of exercise, 20 minutes of journaling, and 20 minutes of something inspirational. And in that I do a lot of exercise in my day. I run, I go to the gym. My 20 minutes of exercise is really stretching and getting in tune with my body and just appreciating the fact that I have a healthy body. So when I do my gratitude list, one of the first things that goes on the list is that I'm healthy. And I'm incredibly healthy, not only for a woman my age, but I would say for people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. I've focused a lot because of the fact that at one point I was very unhealthy. Today, it's all about what am I consuming in mind, body, and soul.
Yeah, you are super healthy to be running triathlons, running marathon at your age. I did something similar 2 years ago. I did a 70-mile, the half Ironman.
Whoa.
And yeah,
Whoa.
and Kathleen, I had to learn how to swim for that one because I was 32 years old and never swam in my life. But this was my goal and I had to make it happen. So I went in ahead and learned how to swim. And it's been a whirlwind of fun. The energy that you get being in the crowd of triathletes and marathon runners. I mean, it's like they're high all the time, right? It's that runner's high. They're super happy.
Oh, it really, yeah. And you know what's interesting for me, like I'm not a fast runner by any stretch. You know, people think that I'm this super fast runner. I hold the distinction of coming in last in a lot of races, and yet I'm consistent. And, you know, there was a period where I felt like, oh, I must be a failure because I'm always coming in last. But I thought, you know, wait a minute. At least I'm doing it. I'm not on the couch. I'm not doing things that are counterproductive for my life. But what you say about the runner's high, what I love about being involved in marathons, triathlons, whatever it may be. What I love about that is you're with a community of people where we're all doing something positive. And I was journaling about this just this morning about the people that we surround ourselves with. And it's so important to notice who you surround yourself with. And it's not about being better than or, separating yourself from other people, but it's truly about being aware and conscious about the energy of other people. Because if you're around negative people, you tend to get sucked in and you'll be negative. If you're around people that are not doing productive things with their health, it's real easy to compromise our values if we surround ourselves with people that are not raising their own bar in life.
Absolutely. Jim Rohn says you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And it literally means the people you spend the most time with shape who you are. They determine what conversations that dominates your attention. They affect which attitude and behavior you are regularly exposed to.
Absolutely. And another thing that Jim Rohn says is setting goals is not about accomplishing the goal. It's about who you become on the way to accomplishing the goal. And I find that, it's so powerful because it took me a little while to really understand that. But if you think about it, when you train for a marathon, or let's say you're building a business, or you're trying to get in good shape and healthy, I'm not even talking about the body image. I'm talking about the health of your heart, your diabetes prevention, your cancer prevention, all of that. When you're setting goals and you're striving for that goal, you really get to see what you're made of when you commit every single day. Like when I was training I did a race on July 4th. It was just a 10K. And my friends go, oh, just a 10K. It's like, well, it's just a 10K. But in the month of June, I set a goal of running 100 miles in my practice runs. And so that meant that every day I would run at least 3.5 miles. And it's so interesting because oftentimes what we do is we say, I'll get around to it tomorrow. And many people live in the space of tomorrow, and they keep putting things off until it becomes so overwhelming that they literally cripple themselves from accomplishing their goals. So Jim Rohn, I love his philosophy and I love his teachings. It's really about what you're willing to do on a daily basis in those baby steps that get you to the giant step.
And I agree with you because I've run over 20 races, and I just looked behind me and saw all my medals hanging up. It's like the Hall of Fame and my name's on all the bibs. And during that time of my life, and I did it for 2 years straight, it was like you said, just simply accomplishing one run at a time. And that transcends to other goals in my life. If I keep one step in front of the other, then I will accomplish my degree. If I keep one step ahead of each of the other, then I am able to overcome this obstacle. And that's the beauty of exercising. That's the beauty of a community that runs together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, and you can take the philosophy around training for a marathon and apply it to just about anything. And as an entrepreneur, I really work with my clients on that level. One of the areas that I focus on is working with experts who write books, who want to market their books. And a lot of people have this misguided belief that the heavens are going to open up and buyers are going to drop from the heavens. Well, it doesn't work that way. You have to be proactive in what you're doing. And so I teach them to take the baby steps that lead into the bigger result and the bigger success. And one area that I'm focusing on right now is working with my clients, getting a lot of podcast interviews. I have what's called the 100 Club, and it's about getting 100 podcast interviews to promote a book. And it's so interesting, Lunid, to watch the fear come up in people when they think about they're getting close to accomplishing their goal. And it's amazing what people will do on a subconscious level to sabotage their success. So it's really helping them to understand that if you just take one step today, just one, do that 1 mile today, that's all you need to do. Then tomorrow you can deal with tomorrow. But I love when I see these breakthroughs. I have one client that she resisted, and finally she said, okay, I'll do what you say. I mean, she's paying me a lot of money to tell her what to do, and not to do it is kind of a pity. So she finally did it. And within one day, she booked 4 podcast interviews, and she goes, oh my gosh, this stuff is great. It really works. It's like, yes, it does. Yes, it does. You just have to do it.
What are some of the self-sabotages behaviors that you've seen?
Well, I can speak for myself. One is I'm really clear, like when it comes to drugs and alcohol, I'm really clear that I don't even mess around with that. And I've had people say, well, you've been sober so long. Wouldn't one drink be okay? And it's like, I don't know, but I'm not going to mess with it. So I'm really clear on the fact that I'm somebody that I don't take that kind of risk. But with my health, for example, I'm a plant-based eater, and I've been plant-based for almost a year now, where I'm 100% whole food plant-based. And I don't necessarily call myself vegan, because with vegan, you can cheat by doing cookies and chips and all this kind of stuff. And with plant-based, it's a little more rigid for me. But I can see those times when maybe I am starting to dig my hand into the tortilla chips, and it's like one handful goes into a second, into a third, and all of a sudden I'm going, why did I do that? So it's like little behaviors that when you've made a commitment to something, let's say that in business, you say, okay, today I'm going to make 10 phone calls. And you say for the next month, every day I'm going to make 10 phone calls. And the first day you do it, the second day you do it, the third day you say, well, I'll make 8 calls today. And then the next day, I'll make 6 calls today. Well, all of a sudden you're setting yourself up for failure, because you've already seen a result from the 10 phone calls. And it might be one person that you reach out of the 10, but that's one person that you've reached. And so it's that consistency. And as you notice that you're going against your own rule and your own guideline, and we all have to do this for ourselves. I mean, it's not like it's a one size fits all, that, what I do is necessarily going to work for you and what you do is going to work for me. But we can share ideas, and we can really look at, okay, am I doing things? Am I surrounding myself with people that are going to put me into temptation? Am I getting up later than I want to. I do my morning routine, and if I don't get up at a certain time, I'm not going to have time and I have to rush through it. So those are things that are indications that I would be sabotaging myself.
And absolutely, it's being consistent. I love that you say that. You got to keep at it day in and day out and hold yourself accountable. And if that is not working for you, get an accountability partner.
Absolutely. Yes.
There is power in having a mastermind, and where two people are gathered, he is there, right? So if you are working with somebody else for a common goal, there are bound to be higher success rates.
Absolutely. It's the masterminding, accountability partners, having a mentor, investing in yourself. It's so interesting. I see this in business a lot, where people say they want to have a successful business and they ask successful entrepreneurs, how did you do it? We share what we did, and they go, yeah, but, and they get into that, yeah, but again. And success leaves clues. Tony Robbins talks about that, how success leaves clues. And a lot of influencers talk about this. And we get the clues, and then we say, well, I'll do it except for that one clue, whatever that may be. And the reality is that you can look at what somebody's doing, and you can say, okay, how can I apply that to my life? I got certified as an NLP practitioner in 1994, and we learned about modeling success, modeling a strategy. And if you can figure it out, if you can break it down, it's like a recipe. You break it down and you say, okay, these are the ingredients. This is the order the ingredients were put in. Let's see if it's going to work.
And I love what you do, because you've, over the years, reinvented yourself.
You have to, because, if I look at the way business was 25 years ago, and really how little I knew back then compared to what I know now, it's like business has dramatically changed, and the internet has a lot to do with that. Social media has a lot to do with that. My age has a lot to do with that, growing and transforming myself. But what I was doing way back when I started is very different than what I'm doing now. Early on, I got a contract with a seminar company, and I was on the road about 3 weeks out of the month with this seminar company. And I thought I had arrived. I thought, okay, that's it. I'll be doing this for the rest of my life. Well, after 4 years of being a road warrior, it's like, ooh, this isn't really, what I need to be doing. And then I actually joined a company as their primary executive of operations. I was with them for 18 months. And then I started doing a lot of local business in Salt Lake City at the time when I lived there, working with government agencies and municipalities. I was working with large corporations, and I scaled back to where then I started working with solo entrepreneurs. Then so it's really been a journey of self-discovery of what's important to me, the kind of people I enjoy working with, what my passions are, and being able to incorporate my passions into what I do in business. And I was talking with a friend the other day who's really struggling. She had a $2 million business at one point, and things are really tough for her right now. To the point that she said on any given month, if she makes $3,000 or $4,000, she's lucky. And going from a $2 million business to that's a dramatic change. And we were just talking about the changes that you go through in business. And I said something about passion, and she got really angry. She goes, "It has nothing to do with passion. It has to do with X, Y, and Z." And I was like, "Wow, your anger is really what's contracted you so much." And so I think that in business, what I've learned is to love what we're doing. And if we don't love it, figure out what we need to do to get to a place that we either learn to love it or we change what we're doing so that we can love what we're doing.
And one thing that makes you unique is you work with entrepreneurs who are on fire, entrepreneurs who are not stuck, who are on the rise. I love working with people who have a bigger vision of what they're doing, that they really have a big purpose in helping other people and to help rise them up and show them there are certain strategies that will get them to where they want to go faster. And they're accountable. They're the kind of people that are willing to do the footwork. Because I get pretty frustrated with people who are excuse makers. I look at
my own journey. And there's a lot of risks that I've had to take. One of my biggest risks was when I hired a coach and I was paying her $30,000 a year. That's what I paid her. And that didn't include the cost of going out to meet with her, the masterminds. In a given year, it could be well over $50,000 that I was investing to get her insights. And I have to tell you that when I would have my coaching sessions with her, when she would say to do something, there were times that my palms were really sweaty. It was like, oh, this is scary. But I would do it and I would get a result. And it was like, wow, the very first idea she gave me, I actually made $50,000 on one idea. And it was like, okay, that was worth the investment. And it was one minor distinction. And that's the thing, Lunid. A lot of times people think that change has to be huge and massive. And sometimes it's just a slight adjustment that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, it's like baby steps. That 1 degree shift will change your direction over time. It's a compounding effect.
Absolutely.
So the question that I wanted to ask is, as a new author, how do I gain visibility? I know you mentioned being a risk taker, getting out of my comfort zone, and also podcast appearances. And I love what you said about investing in yourself, because that's key. Jim Rohn says it again. He says, work harder on yourself than you do at your job. And so I understand the value of investing in yourself.
Yeah, let me take a step back on being an author. My recommendation to somebody who's going to write a book is to actually start the marketing before the book comes out. A lot of times authors wait until the book comes out, and start as soon as you know you're going to write a book. What you want to do is you want to set your website up, your blog up, any of your social media channels in a way that you can actually start raising awareness around the book and possibly getting people on a subscriber list. And so let's say that you have a book on, I'll use something that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but let's say that it's on dog training. We'll use that as an example. And you're going to teach the latest and greatest strategies of how to train a dog. Well, what you can do is you could actually have some ethical bribes. These are the giveaways that maybe you have some short videos on how to train your dog. Maybe you have a checklist of, the making sure that the environment is good for your dog. Maybe you have an ebook, but things that you can give to people, and in return, they give you their email address. And I will tell you, it's getting harder to get people's email address than it used to be in the past. In the past, it was a novelty, but today we're so overwhelmed. So it has to be high value. And start engaging your community before your book is done. So that way, by the time the book is done, you've already been building a relationship with potential readers. Another thing to look at is, do you have a platform where you can actually reach your market? And the platform would be your social media channels. It would be, are you doing podcasting? You can do, like one book, my book, Power Up for Profits, we actually did a 3-day event. And when people bought the book, they got 2 tickets into my 3-day event. Well, at the 3-day event, I introduced a year-long coaching program, and we generated $250,000 at that event. And so it wasn't like all of a sudden I said, oh, I think I'll do a 3-day event. We had about a year-long plan that everything that we did was driving to that 3-day event, and the book was the feeder into the event. So we were very strategic about making sure that people knew the book was coming. We were building our list. We were building my presence. All of that tied into getting people to the 3-day event. And then after the fact, what was I able to do with that? So I would say for any author, start immediately to raise your visibility. And one of the best ways to raise your visibility is through podcast interviews. And you want to make sure that you can hold a decent conversation. What I see, and I'm sure you've seen this with some of the guests that you've talked to before they come on, or maybe, they didn't make the cut and get on your show, but is that you put a microphone in front of somebody and they freeze. And it's like, why? You're just having a conversation. So interviews are basically conversations. And that's one of the best ways to share your message and build your market reach.
Yeah, that's powerful. Thank you for sharing. I'm sure a lot of authors will find value in that. Tell us, how can we connect with you? How can we connect with your coaching business?
Well, thank you for asking. The easiest way, and I've got all my connections on there, is my website, Power Up for Profits, and that's plural, powerupforprofits.com. And for those people who might want to find out more about plant-based eating, plantbasedeatingforhealth.com, plantbasedeatingforhealth.com. And all my social media and all that is on both sites.
Well, thank you for coming on the show, Kathleen. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
All right, morning enthusiasts, that's it for today's show. Thank you for tuning in. If you love the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast, we'd love to hear from you. So go ahead and subscribe, rate, and give a review on iTunes or Google Play. While you're at it, tell a friend about the show. Be sure to visit bestmorningroutineever.com and our Facebook group to join the conversation, access the show notes, and discover our fantastic free bonus content. Until next time,